At the family reunion, my uncle said, "Isn't it time we controlled our women properly?" He said it like he was suggesting we change the barbecue sauce recipe. Casual, comfortable, like this was a perfectly reasonable topic for a Saturday afternoon surrounded by family. For context, my family is large, old school, conservative in the way where nobody says the quiet parts out loud. Until Uncle Warren decided the quiet parts needed a microphone. Warren is 63, retired military, divorced twice. Both wives left him, which he attributes to the decline of traditional values, and not to the fact that he's impossible to live with. He's the kind of man who calls women females in conversation, and thinks he's being scientific. The reunion was at my parents' house. 40 people, grills smoking, kids running through sprinklers, music playing. My cousin Danny was showing off her engagement ring. My mom was organizing the dessert table. My grandmother was sitting in her lawn chair holding court like a queen. Everything was fine until Warren stood up. For context, every family reunion has a Warren. The uncle who peaked in 1987 and has been declining ever since. The one who corners you at the buffet to explain why things were better back then. The one who watches Fox News like it's a religion and treats family gatherings like TED Talks nobody asked for. Warren had been dropping comments all morning. When Danny showed him her engagement ring, he said, "Hope he signed a prenup." When my cousin Lisa mentioned her promotion at work, he said, "Who's watching your kids while you're climbing ladders?" When my aunt poured herself a second glass of wine, he said, "Careful, that's how women lose control." Each comment landed and dissipated. People exhaled, changed the subject, did the thing families do when they don't want to start a fight at a barbecue. But Warren was warming up, building towards something, testing the room's tolerance like a comedian feeling out a crowd. Then he stood up. He didn't announce himself, didn't clink a glass. He just stood in the middle of the yard and started talking, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I want to say something that needs to be said." People stopped mid-conversation. Kids paused mid-sprint. I look around this family and I see a lot of women who've lost their way. My mom put down the cake knife. Danny's engaged to a man she barely knows. My niece Sarah is raising her kids without a husband. My own daughter hasn't been to church in 2 years. My cousin Sarah, who was standing 3 feet away holding her 9-month-old, stared at him with wide eyes. For the record, Sarah's husband died in a car accident. She didn't raise her kids without a husband by choice. She raises them alone because their father is dead. Warren continued, "I think it's time the men in this family stepped up. Isn't it time we controlled our women properly?" The word controlled hung in the air like smoke from a fire nobody wanted to admit was burning. My grandmother set her lemonade down, slowly, deliberately, the way she does when she's about to ruin someone. But before she could speak, Warren's own daughter Haley stood up. Haley is 30, lawyer, Harvard Law, graduated top of her class, works at a firm in DC. She's the most successful person in our family, and everyone knows it, including Warren, which is probably why he targeted her. "Dad, sit down. I'm talking. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm telling the truth. You're telling your truth, and nobody asked for it." Warren's face reddened. "This is why women need guidance. You can't even let a man speak without what? Without correcting you? You just called Sarah a bad mother in front of her dead husband's family." Sarah's mother-in-law, who was standing by the grill, set her plate down, the kind of slow, deliberate movement that precedes violence. "You said Danny doesn't know her fiancé. They've been together for 4 years. You just met him today." Danny's fiancé, who was standing next to the cooler with a beer, raised his hand awkwardly. 4.5, actually. "And you said I haven't been to church." "I haven't. Because the last time I went, the pastor told me a woman's place is in service to her husband, and I'm not married to a man who deserves service. I was married to you for 18 years, and you controlled Mom so well she left you while you were at work and didn't leave a forwarding address." The yard was silent. 40 people frozen with plates and cups. Warren's jaw was tight. "That's not what happened." "That's exactly what happened. Mom called me from a hotel 2 states away and said I couldn't breathe in that house. She didn't leave because of the decline of traditional values. She left because you treated her like property." My grandmother finally spoke. "Warren, sit your behind down." "Mama, you're just embarrassing every woman in this family who was too polite to tell you to shut up." "I'm not polite. Sit down." Warren looked around the yard. 40 faces staring at him. Not one ally, not one nod, not one person willing to back up the man who thought control was a family value. My Uncle James, who's been married for 35 years, stood up. "Warren, I've controlled exactly 2 things in my marriage, the remote and the thermostat. And Margaret took the thermostat last winter." His wife Margaret raised her glass. "And I'll take the remote next." The yard erupted in laughter. Not at Warren, around him, like he was the only person not invited to the joke. Warren sat down, silently, for about 30 seconds. Then he muttered, "This family has lost its backbone." My grandmother heard him. She set her plate down, walked over to his chair, 83 years old, 5 feet tall, 4'11" in her good shoes. She stood directly in front of him. "Warren, I raised 4 children, buried a husband, ran a household on a secretary's salary for 37 years. I did it without a single man controlling me. And I did it better than you've done anything in your entire life." She turned around, walked back to her chair, picked up her lemonade. "Now someone bring me more potato salad before I lose my patience entirely." Warren ate his food without speaking for the rest of the afternoon, left early, didn't say goodbye. Haley found Sarah afterward, hugged her. "I'm sorry about what he said." Sarah, still holding her 9-month-old, shook her head. "Your dad isn't the first man to judge a widow. He won't be the last. He judged the wrong widow in front of the wrong family." My grandmother walked past Warren's empty chair on her way to the dessert table, looked at it, and said, "Good riddance." And that one chair stayed empty for the rest of the afternoon because nobody in this family needed to be controlled. We just needed one loudmouth to finally hear what 40 women had been thinking for years.